So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I shit him, now shit me, I shit him, now shit me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like he's like, what is going on here?
That there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
None of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14 feet.
Charlie Kirk's death isn't just a tragedy, it's a riddle that's left everyone searching for answers. There are too many shadows, too many missing pieces, and the more you look, the less sense it all makes. Now, with Joe Rogan himself speaking out, the questions aren't just about the incident itself, but about everything and everyone connected to it. Even those who've managed to stay out of the spotlight are suddenly part of the conversation. Let's be honest, at this point, it's hard to believe in coincidences. Take a closer look at the connections. Did you know Charlie's father, Robert W. Kirk, was the architect behind Trump Towers? That's not just a random fact, it's a link to one of the most powerful families in America. And then there's Charlie's wife, Erica Lane Kirk. She won Miss Arizona USA in 2012, right in the middle of the years when Donald Trump was running the Miss America pageant. The more you dig, the more these connections start to look less like chance and more like a carefully arranged web. Even the age gap between Erica and Charlie, she's 5 years older, has people talking. Erica's story is just as unusual as Charlie's. She was a basketball-loving tomboy who hated dressing up, even cut off all her hair, and somehow ended up winning Miss USA. How does someone go from being a sports-obsessed kid to a beauty queen, and then cross paths with Charlie at a Turning Point event in 2018, where she was supposedly just interviewing for a job? The whole thing feels scripted, like a story that was written before it ever happened. But things really exploded when Joe Rogan talked about the case on his podcast. He didn't just question the official story, he called it out as ridiculous. Rogan pointed out details the media ignored, like the photo of the alleged shooter, a 22-year-old holding what looked like a brand-new, high-tech rifle. Rogan said the weapon looked too modern, too pristine for the story being told. He even admitted he almost texted a friend when he saw the photo, because something just felt off. Could a random 22-year-old really pull this off? Rogan's guest said, sure, with the right training, anyone could hit a target at 200 yards with a scoped rifle. But if you've never done it before, it's not that simple. Lining up a shot through a scope takes practice, and even then, it's not easy. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. The first images of the rifle made it look like a modern composite stock hunting rifle, not some old family heirloom. Yet the official story claims it was a World War I relic with no serial number. Why the contradiction? And then there's the bizarre behavior in the crowd. An older man, with a history of showing up at major incidents, suddenly starts yelling and acting out, drawing attention to himself. He's been present at other high-profile events, even bomb scares. This time, he's arrested on child pornography charges almost immediately, and once he's in custody, he's off-limits for interviews. People online started asking, what are the odds that the same person keeps popping up at these chaotic moments? Almost zero. The strangest part was the man's act of pulling down his pants, shocking, distracting, and almost like it was meant to pull focus away from what was really happening. Maybe he wasn't completely stable, but he definitely knew how to grab attention. Rogan suggested these odd details weren't just random, they looked like a sequence of events designed to cover someone's tracks. The story about the gun being disassembled, hidden in a backpack, and then reassembled on a rooftop just doesn't add up. It's not something you can do quickly or easily, especially under pressure. So, we're left with a jumble of confusing details, a man yelling in the crowd, a mysterious rifle, a suspect who supposedly assembles and disassembles a weapon in record time. If you were a detective, you'd be sitting in the interview room thinking, none of this makes sense. A short clip of Rogan's comments went viral, and when Elon Musk was tagged, he replied with one of his cryptic tweets, "The truth doesn't stay hidden forever." That alone set off a firestorm. People started analyzing Rogan's words frame by frame, trying to figure out what Musk might know. The more people looked, the more staged the whole thing seemed. If the goal is to make the public give up on ever knowing the truth, you just flood the story with confusing details, orchestrate a shocking event, and throw in enough nonsense to make everyone doubt everything. The result? Widespread confusion, endless speculation, and the truth buried under layers of noise. As the clip spread, conspiracy theories exploded. Why would Rogan and Musk suddenly bring up a case that was supposedly closed? Was it just coincidence, or were they sending a message? Things got even stranger when Musk started replying to posts by Candace Owens, who accused the media of hiding key facts about Charlie's death. Suddenly, hashtags about Charlie's widow were trending, and forums were buzzing with speculation that Rogan and Musk knew more than they were letting on. Even mainstream media couldn't ignore it, and their coverage only fueled the fire. When Rogan's full podcast dropped, the story got even darker. He didn't just point out a few inconsistencies, he said there were too many things that didn't add up, from the equipment used to the suspect's behavior and the investigators' lack of transparency. He even joked that if you put this story in a movie, nobody would believe it. It's a sickening feeling, and a lot of people are just trying to make sense of it all. The only thing to do is keep digging, keep asking questions, and not settle for easy answers. The FBI has even said they're looking for another person involved, which is a relief, because the current story clearly doesn't hold up. There's a lesson here, too. When the government wants to hide something, they don't just cover it up, they overwhelm you with so much information, so many conflicting stories, that you can't tell what's real anymore. It's chaos by design, meant to make you give up and accept whatever the authorities say. But we can't let that happen. This event has shocked the world, and we deserve real answers. Candace Owens also weighed in, saying Charlie had started talking about sensitive topics that made powerful people nervous. She claimed he was under constant pressure, especially after he began speaking openly about Jeffrey Epstein, a subject most people avoid. According to Charlie, Epstein wasn't some financial genius, but a carefully crafted persona, a tool for blackmail and influence. There are claims Epstein was working for various intelligence agencies, and that his real job was to compromise powerful people for leverage. Owens even shared a screenshot of a group chat where Charlie mentioned losing a major donor because he wouldn't cancel Tucker Carlson, and others in the chat discussed the fallout. This was just 2 days before Charlie's death, and he was clear and determined, not hiding or backing down. Rogan's fans noticed that Owens's comments lined up with his own. Both pointed out trust issues, inconsistencies, and even hinted at something strange about Charlie's widow. As these questions spread, the connection between Erica Kirk and Donald Trump came back into focus, especially after an old clip of Trump joking about Charlie's reaction in a dangerous situation went viral. Then, Utah prosecutors released a series of text messages allegedly sent by the suspect, Tyler Robinson, to his girlfriend. But when the messages were published, social media exploded with skepticism. Many people said the language didn't sound like a 22-year-old, and the messages looked edited, with strange gaps and missing timestamps. The character of Lance, Robinson's supposed roommate, also vanished from the story, adding to the mystery. Steve Bannon jumped in on his podcast, saying he didn't believe the official version at all. He pointed out that the text sounded scripted, and brought up other suspicious details, like an SD card being removed from a camera and a man adjusting his hat right before the incident. Bannon said Charlie had been under increasing pressure from sponsors and the media, especially for allowing open debate on controversial topics like Israel. Bannon's comments sent shockwaves through the public, raising the biggest question of all: who's really controlling the story, and why? There were even reports that Charlie had been pressured at a Hamptons meeting, and that he'd refused a massive offer of funding tied to political influence. According to insiders, he was invited to Israel for what was supposed to be an honorary trip, but it felt more like a warning. Charlie refused, and the pressure only increased. The silence from people close to Charlie, like Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee, only made things more suspicious. When asked about the Hamptons meeting, Dillon didn't respond, but he did urgently contact Turning Point USA. Online, people started to suspect Charlie's widow, Erica. Some pointed to her social media posts, saying her behavior didn't seem like genuine grief. Others thought she might just be caught up in something much bigger, following orders under immense pressure. So what do you think? Is there more to this story than we're being told? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But let's dig even deeper, because the more you look, the more you realize how many layers there are to this story. The connections between the people involved, the strange timing of events, and the way the narrative keeps shifting all point to something much bigger than just a single tragedy. For example, the way the media has handled the story is suspicious in itself. At first, there was a flood of coverage, with every outlet repeating the same basic facts. But as soon as questions started being asked, the coverage dried up. Suddenly, nobody wanted to talk about the inconsistencies, the missing footage, or the people who had vanished from the story. It's almost as if there was a coordinated effort to move on, to get people to stop asking questions. And then there's the issue of the venue. Who picked the location for the event where everything went down? Was it just a coincidence, or was there something about that place that made it the perfect setting for what happened? These are the kinds of questions that never get answered, but they're the ones that matter most. The more you look at the people around Charlie, the more you see a pattern of silence and avoidance. Friends who used to be outspoken suddenly have nothing to say. People who were at the event don't want to talk about what they saw. Even those who were closest to Charlie seem to be keeping their distance, as if they're afraid of what might happen if they speak out. And what about the financial side of things? The loss of major donors, the pressure from sponsors, the threats to pull funding if certain people were invited to speak, these are all signs that there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than anyone wants to admit. Money and influence are powerful motivators, and when they're at stake, people will go to great lengths to protect their interests. The story about the Hamptons meeting is especially telling. According to people who were there, the atmosphere was tense, and Charlie was put under intense pressure to change his views. When he refused, the pressure only increased. The invitation to Israel, which was supposed to be an honor, felt more like a threat. And when Charlie stood his ground, the people around him started to close ranks. It's also worth noting how quickly the narrative shifted after Charlie's death. At first, the focus was on the tragedy itself. But almost immediately, the story became about the people around him, his widow, his friends, his colleagues. The speculation about Erica's role, the questions about her behavior, the rumors about her being a pawn in a larger game, all of these things serve to distract from the real issues. And that's the point. When you flood the story with confusion and speculation, it becomes almost impossible to know what's true. People start to doubt everything, and the real story gets lost in the noise. It's a classic tactic: overwhelm the public with so much information, so many conflicting narratives, that nobody knows what to believe. But we can't let that happen. We have to keep asking questions, keep digging for the truth, and refuse to accept easy answers. The stakes are too high, and the consequences of letting this story fade away are too great. So, as we wrap up, here's what we know. Charlie Kirk's death is surrounded by unanswered questions, suspicious connections, and a narrative that just doesn't add up. The people involved have gone silent, the media has moved on, and the official story is full of holes. But the search for the truth isn't over, not by a long shot. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who cares about getting to the bottom of things. Don't let the confusion and chaos win. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep pushing for answers. And if you want to stay updated as this story develops, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video, and join the conversation in the comments below. Your voice matters, and together, we can keep the search for the truth alive. Thanks for watching, and remember, nothing is ever just a coincidence.